My passion is also to mentor coaches. The community of 500 coaches, they all are friends today, so very close friends. Some of them are here. And thanks once again for those who have joined. I have deliberately picked up, unlike me, that's not me, the usual self, a slightly provocative topic today, coaching beyond competencies. Just to give you a background why I spent 2 decades of my corporate experience, pretty much across the 2 decades, sales was part of my role. And I'm not that classical sales guy, but I've done well as a sales guy, partly because process driven, partly because I kept challenging myself because it doesn't come naturally to me. I'm an introvert, not somebody who's good in talking. I'm still improving, so not great with words and language. So I have worked on it. So the point is, when it comes to coaching, I'm pretty much Six Sigma compliant with the process of ICF framework. I want to set this context clear upfront. Here, I'm not challenging for the sake of challenging ICF framework, but more to explore together how we can transcend the constraints of ICF framework as we interpret it. I don't think ICF interprets it that way, and at the same time give delight to the client. Yeah, and this is going to be interactive. I have 3 sheets in front of me. I've made some notes. I'm pretty much over prepared. As Robin Sharma says, if you're not over prepared, you're under prepared. So I'm pretty much over prepared. This means a lot to me. And it's a delight to connect back on the first day of International Coaching Week for 2025. And we have done something or the other every year over the last few years. That's our pay forward to coaching as a profession. So we'll jump in. My first question to all of you, and I would invite you to go to the chat box and kind of give your comment. What does coaching mean to you? Just in one word. What does coaching mean to you? I just want few answers. Then I'll pick up the thread. And we'll not judge you. We all are coaches here. Feel free to write whatever comes to your mind. Self-awareness, yeah. Transformation, connecting. Yeah, I'm talking about as a coach, what does coaching mean to me? That's what I want you to write. Awareness, elevation of awareness, yeah. Some more, then I can move on. Supporting someone and holding, yeah. Holding space for them to grow. It is still about others, Narayan. What does it mean to you? From a mildly selfish perspective. Don't worry on that. Holding space, yeah. Facilitating awareness. So awareness comes back, awareness creation. I just want to give an alternative perspective, again, to challenge you with your permission. Is say lifestyle. How about lifestyle as a professional? How about lifestyle as someone, all of us pretty much get into this profession after 10, 15, 20 years of work experience. This true, usually that is our our calling that we live. So while we can talk about our self-awareness, making that impact, can you also look at our lifestyle as a perspective? That's one thought I want you to leave. Again, this is not original. There's something a prosperous coach Rich Litwin speaks of, and there are others who speak of. My day one marketing class, marketing major in my MBA, they said marketing is the act of selling or providing services for a profit. So the professor added for a profit, which is not the classical definition of coaching. Similarly, I'm inviting you to look at what is beyond that you always thought is your primary reason for coaching. Yeah, the other way to frame that is why we coach. What was that why that prompted us to get into coaching? So when I got into coaching, when I experienced coaching, I was fascinated by the process. I felt I could touch lives. That has not changed. even after I started mentoring. But there is something beyond that. What is beyond that for you is something that I want you to leave. Reflect on this. And it is okay to be mildly selfish so that you don't lose your sight on the impact, the transformation that you leave. At the same time, you are able to elevate your quality of life. I'm not talking about living a luxurious life, ostentatious life. No, I'm more aligned with minimalist, and I'm more trending towards that. And some of our friends in the community also practice deriving inspiration from them. So, what is it that prompt us to coach? So, the point I'm asking you to reflect on is when you started coaching, when you got into coaching as a profession, what was that why? Has it changed now? Does it remain same? I want you to think of three words on how we coach. Three words on how we coach. And I want this to be very personal to you. Don't worry if you've not thought of it before. And don't give me the jargon of competency framework. How we coach is to be, it could be your coaching model that you would have done as part of your coach training journey. Again, not necessary that you need to stick to. That the process of coaching that is true to yourself, who you are, what does that come to you? The vulnerability and humility. Pause, reflect, and transform. So you give a lot of pause to the client, you reflect, and you transform. Okay. Thanks, Prakash, for that prompt. For me, I also want you to kind of make a note. Again, something that I've been repeating recently, coaching is transformative. If coaching is not transformational, then it is not coaching. There is nothing like transactional coaching, just as there is no band-aid to surgery. It's either surgery or band-aid. Similarly, coaching was always transformational. From that point of view, uh, the transformation that Prakash speaks of is about your own self-transformation. We think that we are transforming the client. No, I want you to look at the perspective that what is the transformation that I am going through. In the process, the client also, makes some transformational shift, something rubs off. The client is paying you for your self-transformation journey. And this transformation of the self is integral to what we are going to cover for next, say, 30 minutes or lesser. Yeah. So thanks, Prakash, for that. Pause, reflect, transform is a brilliant answer that I got here. Deep connection, reflection. Yeah, deep connection from a trust. Every conversation is a add-on to the trust that we're building to the client. CC4, right? Uh, we take a lot of liberty in our close relationships, family, friends, at work, colleagues, right? But you don't have the luxury in coaching because every interaction, not just conversation, is a building block towards deepening the trust. So CC4 is an ongoing process: care, empathy, compassion. Something more specific: reflection and distilling. Yeah, something that comes out. Yes, honest, grounded, and analytical. Uh, very interesting answer. Honest, yes. As a coach, if you're not honest, like Rekha said about vulnerability, if you're not vulnerable, if you're not authentic, I always speak about the golden triangle of authenticity, vulnerability, and resilience. Yeah. So honesty, like vulnerability, is very critical. Grounded, yes. So my question to you is, what do you do to to get yourself grounded at the beginning of every session? Yeah, I'm sure you have your own ritual to practice to get yourself grounded. But do you do that with every session? Or do you take some liberty with some clients, with some session? You just jump in from one session to the other session. Then that ritual is diluted. You're not fully ready, you're not fully grounded. Yeah. Analytical, then it's a red flag for me. Coaching at a deeper level, coaching beyond competencies, which is our topic today, is going beyond the analytical framework of the competencies or the CC8, 1 to 8. Can we go beyond the analytical framework? For example, you don't think what to ask. Powerful questioning, which was a competency before, is not something that you do. It's something that you be. The question comes to you. You are surprised that did I ask that question? Did that come to me? But it comes to you and stand in front of you. Yeah. So it's very important that you transcend analytical space to something intuitive. CC2 coaching mindset. If you watch that video by ICF, for me, it's all about tapping into that intuition. So go beyond analytical. Yeah. I'll be pausing after some time. I'll take all the questions. There is enough time for Q&A. I'll make some initial reflection so that my preparation is also passed on to you. Silence, empathy, and trust. Empathy, honesty, and reflect. Authenticity, vulnerability, and reflection. Yeah, that's my golden triangle. I just add resilience to it, like reflection. Yeah, situation, experiment, safety, trust, co-create. Yeah, I become more non-judgmental and empathetic. Now, thank you for that, Madhavi. So the invitation is to go beyond becoming non-judgmental, to go beyond becoming empathetic, to being empathetic, being non-judgmental. So the invitation is, what does it take me to be naturally empathetic in every situation of my work and life? Not just when I'm sitting on the chair for coaching. What does it take me to build that muscle that I'm naturally empathetic? That is being empathetic, then doing empathetic. I'm being non-judgmental, the unconditional positive regard that we speak of, thanks to Carl Rogers. What is going beyond that? If I have to say that in one word, it is love. Yesterday was International Mother's Day, and incidentally, I'm with my mom, and last 3-4 days I'm here with my mom. That's why it's a new setting. International Mother's Day. Now, mother is perhaps the closest to that unconditional positive regard. She always trusts your potential. But do we bring in that energy into every coaching relationship, every coaching situation? We do mentor a lot of coaches. My simple answer is no. Because we are not building the muscle outside the coaching session to bring that muscle into the coaching conversation. Because the way we do one thing is the way we do everything else. So, going beyond the competency framework, again, which is the topic for today, is moving from that doing to that being. That is coaching from a state of being. And everything that I'm speaking of is not textbook. My friends are here. They know, I do have some experience of practicing that. I've experienced that sweetness of that nectar. And I know that works best for the client. We are here to serve the client. There's no doubt about it. Even while we are transforming ourselves, the end game, the client pays for their shift in perspective, their shift in self-awareness. So that can come when we go transcend the competency framework. Yeah. Now, there is a specific reason why I picked up this topic. There are two reasons. One is uh, coaching has made me very curious. I'm always curious about what is beyond that, right? We had an alumni get together recently in Goa, in India, and we were having this, 1 minute share. So within 1 to 2 minutes, we were all sharing what has been our last 5 years. It was a 10-year reunion of executive education program. So we had a reunion after 5 years. Then we are doing it after another 5 years. That is the 10th year. And we all shared between 1 to 2 minutes. Around 40 of us had come for that. So one of my friends in the group, who is also my client, whom I've worked with, she asked, "What did you listen, coach?" So I said, I heard all the stories. So she said, no, I'm sure you heard something beyond that. Then I picked up a couple of examples and said, I heard this from this guy. I heard this from this person. I'm concerned about the underlying fear that he expressed when he shared that. I experienced the underlying, excitement of doing something new. So some of the emotions which they missed. For me, that is going beyond. Now, I'm not doing this with any effort, any extra effort. I'm able to tap into that space when I'm just sitting there. But I'm able to cut off all that external noise, perhaps between third and fourth level of listening that Otto Schama speaks of. So the coaching journey, if I have to give another framework, which all of you are familiar, is when we start learning to become a coach, we sign up for coaching education. We think we are already coaching. We think we already know coaching. We think I'm a master coach. A lot of people tell us before they sign up for our programs. But in the first 1 hour, we recognize that we are operating from an space of unconscious incompetence. Ignorance is not bliss, right? At least in this space, because you're touching lives. You don't have the luxury of staying ignorant and stupid and think that I can touch lives. No, it comes from deep self-awareness. That's the whole amount of self-work. So from that unconscious incompetence, we move into conscious incompetence. We are aware that I need to work on the framework. I need to build this muscle. You start working on it. Somewhere we stop at conscious competence. If you step back and reflect on your coaching practice, your most of the sessions, we are kind of stuck at conscious competence. That is a disservice to the client. The true service is, when you transcend that, that is going beyond the competency framework, which is the topic, where you're on unconscious competence. You're not thinking of CC3. You're not thinking of CC 3.2. The measure of success emerges at 3.2. You're not looking at the watch, how much time I am going to spend on CC 3.1. The goal behind the goal. Identify and reconfirm what is the goal for the session. You're not consciously looking at why it is important. It emerges in the conversation. Unless these elements don't emerge in the conversation, we are not coaching at the fourth level, which is unconscious competence. The moment I'm aware that I'm stuck at conscious competence, that's where humility kicks in, and I start working on what is that is my invitation to all of you. Yeah. When I started this journey, I traveled to Dubai from Bangalore. There was this ICF conclave in 2014, organized by ICF UAE chapter. And the keynote speaker on day one was Janet Harvey, and day two was Marshall Goldsmith. So I was already, in touch with Janet Harvey, and she was closer to home. I said I'll go travel and meet her. The first question that she asked in that session, 350 coaches in a beautiful resort in the outskirts of Dubai, was how many of you meditate here? That was the first question. No beating around the bush, mindfulness and this and that. No. She was very point blank, if you know Janet Harvey. She said, how many of you meditate here? Very few hands went up. She said, I want to see more hands next time when I'm in this part of the world. And that is my invitation also. One of the ways that we can build the muscle of coaching from a state of unconscious competence or coaching from a state of being. Unconscious competence is still something that we have jargonized over a period of time. Can we coach from a state of being? You're just there, fully present, fully listening, listening to the level 4 generative listening. Coaching happens. You're dancing in the moment. You're not mindful of the steps. You're going with the flow, like the Sufi dance. Yeah. So when we start the journey to become a coach, we start with the process. ICF says coaching is a process, but it also says it's a creative process. So my question to you is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how creative am I? Are we truly, enhancing that process into the realm of creativity that you manifest magic in the moment without making any advanced plan for the client? So if you're not manifesting magic for the client, then you're still not coaching beyond the framework. You're still stuck at the framework. Yeah. So the invitation is to look at what is beyond that. Now, the second reason why I do this is, I have an organization behavior professor, one of my esteemed, mentee coaches who is on his species journey. He said mastery is about learning the process so well that you start pushing the envelope, pushing the boundaries to explore what is beyond that. Because that still comes from a position of curiosity, not coming from arrogance. No, the moment the humility is replaced by arrogance, we have lost the plot. Because learning happens only from the space of humility. And we all have committed to continuous lifelong learning. So when the process transcends to a form of art, then we are coaching. Then we are touching lives. Then it is salsa or it is a jugalbandi, more in an Indian context. How do we do that? Which brings me to the next element. How fearless are you in your coaching? If your coaching is still pulled down by some level of fear, some level of doubt, some level of question, no, then you are not coaching to your potential. You're still stuck by the boundaries of the framework. No, that's not why we got into coaching. Going back to the why. The real why we got into coaching is we want to touch lives. We want to make the transformational impact. Somebody comes to us for getting a promotion in 2 years. We'll work on that what. We are not taking the site of the who, but we are encouraging the client to look at what is the who, what is the goal behind the goal. What is that audacious goal that the client can set beyond this just a promotion in 2 years? If we don't do that, then we are still stuck by the boundaries of 3.1. Now, ICF does not ask you to limit yourself to that framework. It's not even like a Lakshman Rekha. The only Lakshman Rekha that is applicable to us is in the realm of ethics. You can't break the ethics for sure, but that's a huge margin. Yeah. Now, when I touched ethics, uh, um, ethics, and I'm just going to touch upon two, three competencies which I have noted down so that we know there is a context. I'm generally not talking without the framework. For example, two primary expectations which we all know as coaches is you're supposed to be a coach and play no other role of a mentor or a guide or a consultant. And if the client needs any other methodology like therapy or counseling, then we are supposed to let go of the client, right? In the context of ethics, what I've seen is we break knowingly, unknowingly from the first one. We are not always pure coach. We deviate from that. And even a fraction of deviation from it, we deprive the client of classical coaching. Yeah. So be cautious that you're committed to the letter and spirit of that requirement one, that you're a true coach. Now, that true coach can happen if you're truly committed to the process of coaching beyond the framework. The framework will still kind of restrict you to play within the norm, right? Now go beyond that, right? IPL is paused. Hopefully, will start now. Cricket fans here. Now the whole game of cricket is bound by rules. Coaching goes beyond that. It's not just a 20-over game. It's not just a 6 months engagement. It's not just a 3 months engagement. What a frequency you do. Go beyond that. The second one is more of a concern for me. I've come across so many cases interacting with fellow coaches within and more outside our community that they're too quick to let go a client saying that this client needs some alternative methodology like therapy or counseling. But life coaching is the most searched Google keyword. Why don't we try, life coaching for the client? And one of my mentors on this path says, all coaching was always life coaching. Because we're talking about the life. We're talking about maximizing potential personal and professional. Why do we need to restrict? That is what something that I want to leave. Don't be restricted to the letter of ethics, but be committed to the spirit of ethics. You will naturally align with that. So don't be in a hurry to let go a client who has some issues which you feel needs therapy or counseling. But try if you can help. See if you can work with the client, because there is still a lot of stigma around these methodologies. There is also low probability that the client will go and try something else. I want to quickly jump into the second one. My favorite competency, pretty much coming from a business background, the goal setting. I'm jumping to three. I had one of the real uh, influencer, not the social media influencer, real time influencer from the corporate sector in Bangalore, based out of South India, and someone who is respected in the corporate circle, saying that I am very disillusioned with coaching. Yeah, so of course, there is a third person who introduced me to this expert, and we were having an introductory call. But that person was very, very candid in saying that I'm disillusioned with coaching. So I asked why. She said, people have no context of the problem that we face in the corporate, the coaches, right? Coaches think of coming with their framework and touching lives, but they're not talking about, the business problems. They don't understand the problems that the business leader faces in terms of P&L, market share, NPS score, profitability, right? All those related problems that that kind of struggle and give them sleepless nights. So I said, yeah, I mean, disillusion is a very strong word. The reason is why I'm bringing this example is forget my response in the interest of time. The point is, how much are we linking corporate coaching or even in one-to-one coaching, self-sponsored coaching into the ROI, the outcome oriented, even while we are talking about maximizing potential? What is the mechanism to monitor progress? What is the ROI of the whole engagement? A lot of coaches are reluctant to define the goals of the engagements, are reluctant to measure the progress. If you're not measuring it, there's perhaps there is no progress. We are assuming there is progress, or we are looking at those intangible progress elements, not what is tangible for the client or the sponsor. So this expert was talking in the context of executive leadership or business coaching for the corporates. They say that we don't take into account the impact on bottom line and top line. I know this is for me is going beyond the competency framework. If you're not able to pin down beyond not just the tactical goals that the HR may give or a business leader might give or even the client may come up with, we are not transcending the framework. And we have no business to do transformational coaching unless we truly go beyond the framework. Competency number 8, right? I'm mindful of time. Is also it speaks about learning and insight that leading to action, but we kind of restrict it to tactical action. We miss the power of learning for the client. No, the client was meant to learn. What is the new learning? Not just the learning about the topic. 8.2 learning about yourself. 8.3 learning about the problem. 8.4 where else will you apply it? Then it is 8.5 what actions will you take? So 8.1 to 8.4 is the crux of action competencies when you transcend the framework. But here we just go into the action, accountability, those related topics, and then just we close the conversation. No, that is yeah, restricting the potential of the framework. The bulb moment can happen at any of these level for the client. So we have no business to deprive the client of that bulb moment or something truly transformational. Competency speaks of intuition. I don't see any response on the chat. To 7, do talk about it, but it's actually not 7, not 5, 2. Yeah, JL, spot on. No surprise there. So CC2 is about being intuitive. And for me, there is a time when I started coaching, I was fascinated by listening as a competency framework. I found very soon that coaching is not listening; it's much deeper. Then this whole hard sell by Marcia Reynolds about deepening presence over upskilling, that was fascinating. Thankfully, in 2019, ICF brought in CC2, which is about deepening coaching mindset. By the way, we always spoke about coaching mindset right from 2014 when we started training. But it got a validation and a framework when ICF brought in CC2. So if you're not tapping into that intuitive potential of coaching, then we are just doing it a conscious competence. It's unfair to you, it's unfair to your client. The magic of coaching manifests when you are able to tap into that intuitive potential of coaching. Now, the question to you for you to reflect before I pause and take some questions is, what are you doing outside the session to deepen that presence, to deepen that mindset? Again, the way we do one thing is the way we do everything else. Are we truly living in that constant integrated awareness? It is Buddha festival today, right? Vaisakhi, Buddhists across the globe are celebrating. What is that space that truly Satchitananda speaks of? It is not something at a level that comes only to the realized souls. No, it is something what Maslow speaks of self-actualized state. He says it's living to your full potential. So unless we are able to tap into the potential of intuition, we are just playing with that stupid competency framework that ICF we stick to. I'm very mindful of the word I'm using. And it is purely our monkey mind, right, that restricts ourselves. The magic of coaching is when you build on that solid framework, you tap into the level of art and coach from a state of being. And it is not easy. If you ever think that that is very easy, no, it's much deeper than that. And it goes all beyond the doing, right? All the doing that you put in the chat box. Thank you for all the comments. It transcends everything that you're doing now. That is a starting point. You sit and meditate, you chant mantra. That is a starting point. But there is still something beyond that. Now, I heard recently that even there are 7 levels of self-realization. It's just not that you achieve one level, then you're done. There are realized souls going for the higher realms of self-realization. Then what are we talking about? And that is true mastery. Yeah. Thank you for patient listening. I mean, I invite you all to unmute, come in. Anything that you want to ask, I'm happy. I'm okay to be challenged. And if there is something that I can answer, try and answer, I'm happy to do. There are a couple of more points I'll do, but that I'll do after I answer any questions or comments.
Can I go, Subhash?
Yes, please. Yes, Jay.
So I think coaching as a process and how to look at the transformation part and preparing myself as a coach is one part of it. On the other side is the client. How to prepare the client for this transformation. So what are some of the practical tips that you can offer, given the experience that you have?
Yeah. Great question, Jail. Thank you for that. So for me, it starts with the chemistry session. It's very important that we connect at a vibration level. Beyond the potential of the client, all the I have heard our friend Karan saying that some master coach asks the client, it seems, what was the big transformation that you experienced in the past? That is one of the parameter on which you would choose a client. So somebody who has taken up the effort and the trouble and the pain of going through some transformation, then that person is more eligible to be coached by this master coach. For me, beyond all that, connect at that energy level, you will never go wrong. Number one. Number two, about setting the goal. The goal setting in the chemistry session or a discovery session has to be a deep CC3 process that you are preparing the client to go beyond A to B to something magical. And the client will not be ready at that level. But even if you have kind of opened that possibility to go beyond the promotion in 2 years, or becoming a CEO in 5 years, something beyond that. So that is second thing, setting goals at that level, and it has to be smart. If you can, pure and clear, from Sir John Whitmore's classic, right? Or this acronym of SMART, pure and clear, whatever you can. So the goal setting also brings very important. Number three, we all have our signature styles. So one of the things that I tell my client is, I come from a sales background, and for me, the magic manifests not necessarily in the session, but I am open to the possibility more between the sessions. So, what you do between the session is going to define the outcome of the session. Now, again, as a sales leader, I don't let that totally on the client. So that accountability partner 8.7, right? I'm very, very mindful that everyone has certain level of commitment to action. So I'll explore that in the beginning. I'll set the expectation that it's your action that will help you to move. Now, in the chemistry session, typically depending on the client profile, the client problem, and the background, no, I have no, I have a lot of stories to tell about the client experience. I share some experience to say that this has happened with this client, and I challenge them. If you want to connect with that client, you think that I'm adding spice or I'm generally telling a story. I invite you to or challenge you to connect with my client with their prior permission. I'll set up and check, validate this. What will be very clear to you is that it was their commitment to the process of coaching. Again, for those who are new here, I draw the golden triangle. There is the coach at the bottom and the coachee at the bottom angles. But at the top is a process. There is something beyond us. But when all these three happens in synchronicity, that's where magic happens. So, that action orientation. Now, uh, you know, not all clients would be committed to the action. So you have to have that non-judgmental supportive space to give the client. For me, that is a mother's love of unconditional rope that they give, right? So you don't give unconditional, unending rope, no. Because this is a professional conversation, professional engagement. You should know when to pull the rope. And I think that is more like a father's role. When you take a firm stand. And I think when you bring that element into your coaching, the client will be committed to the action. If none of this work, like Sam Dam Dandbe, they say, right? If none of this work, before the client pulls the plug, you should pull the plug. For me, I've had few exits. I always pull the plug. And for me, that's a measure that I'm aware of the progress of the engagement. The client would have continued if I had continued in some of the cases. But I offer in some cases and they accept it. In some cases, I say that this is not working. I think you should find another coach. Because they're not spoiling my equity in the market. And some that doesn't become to that influences one more case that I'm more disillusioned than yesterday. This is a practical reality of the market. Structure and framework where you push the client outside the comfort zone with all compassion and empathy. But it's something that I wrote down actually. "Dar ke aage jeet hai," that line from that popular Hindi movie. But there are variations to that also. I'm sure Aniruddha somebody might have. It's not always jeet. डर के आगे जीत के आगे भी कुछ है. There's something beyond fear. There's something beyond success. Yeah. Does it make sense, Jael? This is some of my random pointers, right? Now, since you asked that, uh, you know, stories sell. For me, this is something that I've discovered. I think what works for me is some of the stories that I tell. And that is the deviation I make in my coaching conversations. So I'm not telling I have done that. No, I tell this has happened. It might be a deviation from the classical framework, but I'm very mindful with whom I tell, what I tell, and how it is landing. So the client is not distracted by the story, but the client is inspired. Inspire is the word in the definition. Yeah. Yeah, Madhavi. I know.
As an experience, Subhash. So I've always remind myself that I am working with the most resourceful person in front of me. So that many times works. When we show the trust that I believe in your resourcefulness, I have seen magic happen. There
Yes.
are clients who told me that nobody has told me this before. When I tell them that, I know you can do it, or when we show them the trust in them, it has really worked very well. The people have told me that, the belief you put in me, that is extremely motivating for me to. So I think that evolves from the
Yeah.
rapport level to all the coaching sessions.
Yeah.
That was
So
my
for me,
experience.
my invitation is thank you for sharing that. For me, it is still what is beyond that. That is the
Yeah.
curiosity we all want to tap into. There is
That's the
something
starting.
beyond that, like the seven levels of nirvana on this auspicious day. Yes, Anirudh.
Hard question.
Oh,
One is that what would be your advice to coaches, young coaches, how as a profession, as a leadership style? Secondly, would be you've recently posted about coaching being embraced in law firms.
yes.
So, being from that community, I've seen that we as advocates are very poor listeners. So, how would listening be beneficial for me as an advocate? And lastly, tying both together, I have a very close friend who has been talking a lot and not doing much, and I feel very invested in his growth. So he says he has no choice, but as he speaks, I can think of 10 things he can do. So now I'm aware that whatever I give, whatever I say, there's not going to be much change. So how can I? Should I? Meaning, when I said I offered to coach him sometime back, he said, "Coaching se kya hoga?" At that point of time. So Sanjog suggested why don't you try coaching him again? So this is my three-part question.
The first one, I think as youngsters, you're a blessed, unlike us, to be exposed to pure coaching. And, especially in India or this part of the world, APAC, I can say that coaching has reached certain level of maturity. So the coaching is ready for you and you are ready for coaching. And, this whole thing that, you don't have a gray hair to coach another old person, that is just ridiculous, actually, because the Gen Zs like you are more equipped to coach perhaps with some of the most experienced professionals out there. So it's about building that confidence within you that I can coach even an old person as CXO. And some of the best corporations have reverse mentoring. So it's already being experimented in some of the top organizations. It is about committing to that process and then go beyond. The mistake that often we all make is we first go beyond with instead of building that muscle or the foundation of the process. Yeah. The second question, I think we all are trained to speak, whether it is extemporary competitions where you have done well in a school, college, or to the toppers, front benches, which I was not. We all have been trained, encouraged to speak. Unfortunately, we have never been trained to listen. We have never been taught empathy. I heard of empathy well into my corporate career, not even during my B school days. Those days, I'm sure today it is different. So some of those things are coming to you now. We should embrace it, and I think lawyers, doctors, therapists, these professions which are even the cops, for example, they all need to listen. And I'm sure we have a couple of doctors in our community who says that I'm a better doctor today because I just listen. I just shut up and listen. Dr. Sanjay, for example, he's so grateful that he found coaching and is practicing. And it has helped. So every professional, including a lawyer, will benefit immensely from listening or other coaching competencies. And the story that I shared, if you just Google that particular phrase, you'll find there is a firm that has implemented it and they found value in it. So it's a case study, it's a real life story. Third one, I go back to the response to jail. Unless the client is committed to the action, the client will make no progress. So you have to find a way to demand that action. So I remember Marshall Goldsmith saying that he gives only one time chance to escape action. Second time, it seems he ends the engagement. Yeah, Dr. Marshall can afford that. Not not many of us, right? And we are not wired that way also, right? And perhaps it's more Western. So you need to decide how much bandwidth you'll give. You know, the moment the client is not taking action, this is for all of us here, because I'm very passionate about action, because transformation happens when the client commits to action. Now, an added point to that with this particular person could be CC7 awareness. Is the client, is the client reflective enough to be self-aware? Is the client committing to that awareness? So go back to our popular tool, to get him to journal. Encourage him or her to try alternatives which will make them reflective. It could be meditation, it could be pranayam, it could be yoga, anything or music, if they are also into music like your friends and you. So find that sweet spot that will make them naturally reflective. Make them do gratitude journal, for example. But you have to decide at what stage you're going to get them to commit. If doesn't work, even if they are your friends, in their interest, you should step back playing the role of a coach. Because sometimes that stepping back could be that medicine for the client, whoever that person is, even if they are your friends, that will make them forced to sit up. Yeah, which also, I'll go one step further. It's something that my friends here are familiar. Coaching is not about a session. Coaching is not about the engagement. Coaching is about a relationship. Some of my best friends have signed up for my coaching, paying a discounted price, not the full price, right? But they are my professional coaches. But that relationship, for me, I know it's not friendship. Perhaps I lose the friendship in the initial phase to become a coach and coach relationship. But that relationship thrives after that. There are some relationships that has evolved. We are better best friends today. And for an introvert person, to me, that means a lot. So, that the ability to bring that coaching into that relationship will make it far more powerful. Which also brings to the women here, mothers here on the call, is applicable to all of us coaching. Don't be a mother to your client. Practice detached attachment. That's my perhaps concluding thought. No, be very attached to the client, to the outcome, to the transformation, to the orbit shifting experience of the client. But also be mindful of detachment, so that it doesn't hurt you. That the client is not taking action that you feel bad. It's like, overdose of empathy. If it is empathy, there is no overdose. It has shifted away from empathy the moment there is overdose. Similarly, the partnering is out of the window when we feel for the client. Beyond a point. I mean, the partnering, that unconditional positive regard, yes. But beyond that, no. So you are, Marshall Goldsmith says, you're the person who's removing the blinkers for the client. It's not easy for the horse. You're a challenger to the client, but you're also, the person who will clap for the client's progress. Are you playing all these roles into one in a way that Mahadevi said, which is empowering? You're still looking at the potential of the client. So extend coaching into the relationship. To do that, can we look at bringing in coaching into every relationship in life? Not easy. Every relationship, random auto driver, Uber driver, to that the person, the house help at home. Can you play that coaching relationship with everyone? Only then we can bring that mastery into coaching. Only then we can tap it intuitive. Don't think that when I sit on the chair, I'll become naturally intuitive. No. Yeah. Any final question? I know we are well ahead of time. Final question. Otherwise, uh, you're pretty much listening. There's one magic pill I want to leave you all with. There are no questions. Thank you for patient listening. There's something, one of the INSEAD professors I heard, who is a communication expert. He said, we all are focusing on communication is 80% listening, 80-20 that we propagate. Yeah, the pause, the listening to what is not said, going beyond the body language, right? All this is listening that we are trained to practice. But a magic pill that can work which I have benefited looking back unknowingly, is, are you also doing voice training? Try voice training. Musicians, Soumya is here. I'm sure Soumya would be aware, would have experienced a musician, a great singer like her benefits immensely from voice training. So if you think that listening ends with all that CC 6.1 to 6.7, including succinctly summarizes, you are still playing within the framework. So one example is go and get voice training. I learn Carnatic music. Not easy for me at my age, but for me it is sharpening the saw of professional coaching. Yeah, so try voice training. Yes, Amitu, it's good to see you here. How do we practice love and humility? It's not only in meditation. Can we do something just before the session? It's easier than done. Yeah, you answered. It is easier said than done. So, I'll quote my guru here. So my guru says, we are like sugar, naturally sweet. There is no effort for sugar to be sweet. We are naturally sugar. And we have just forgotten that core that is applicable to all of us. We have to just tap into that energy within us. Again, when I'm saying that, I'm very mindful that's a journey that I'm still undertaking. But it is not difficult because I've experienced that in bits and pieces. So it starts with an intent. I'm going to extend that unconditional love for my client, not even positive regard. I'm going to no, it transcends what even Madhavi said. If I have unconditional love for the client, you're also going to be a hard taskmaster within the framework, beyond the framework, right? Practice that with people who challenge you the most at work. Amito, specifically to you. Who is that colleague at work who challenges to you? We all have people in our relationship, but those people come to our life for a reason. If you believe in that destiny, they all are teaching us something. And remember that it's always a reflection of who we are. I know very difficult to practice, but if you make an intent that I'm going to tap into that unconditional love within me, and I'm going to build that muscle over a period of time. And you're a fitness expert, you know a lot about that. Can you extend that into this also? You take baby steps, guidance will come to you. And it's a fascinating journey. And again, a couple of my teammates are on this call. I know I am very tough as a colleague, as a boss, quote unquote. But they know that it's for their good and for the company's good, then it is my ego. That I'm sure at least they know. I hope they know. As long as we create that over a period of time, you build that over a period of time, that is coaching that Dr. Marshall Goldsmith says 6 styles of leadership, and coaching is one of them, based on emotions. Coaching based on emotions. Not easy, Amitoj. But once you take the baby step, no, trust me, the guidance will come to you. That I can guarantee you. Yeah.
Sure. Thanks, Subhash.
Thank you.
Subhash, sorry, very quickly, is there something that we can do just before the session? Like, especially right now, like I'm practicing and I won't be a full-time coach for a while. So, many times, like I'm coming in from work and making the transition from working in my job to coaching. So how do I make that transition a little bit easier or smoother?
Yeah. No, for someone like you who works with a global brand which everyone dreams of working with, I can understand the sheer pressure of it, right? 3, 4 things that I'm very fond of. I know it has worked, right? The first one, what is a ritual that you want to practice before every session? Get into some ritual. And at office, I would go light the lamp at the small altar we have. I don't take calls. I tell my team that I have a coaching session. No, don't disturb unless there is something emergency, right? So you get what rituals you want to follow. I know somebody who listens to jazz music for 10 minutes before the session. That helps that person to get grounded. But that doesn't help me because I'm not into jazz music. But I've seen, very soft flute kind of a thing also helps me. Uh, Another thing, if you're into any deep breathing exercise for like pranayam, it works magic. 6 rounds of, there's something magical about 6 or 12 rounds of pranayam, deep pranayam. You'll see the difference immediately. The another thing is, uh, you know, yoga nidra. I know it needs little more time, but if you're somebody, anyone here who finds difficult to get grounded, to focus, to listen at the fourth level of generative listening, not even third level, right? Any of you listening at third level is not enough. You're not done justice to this session. We're talking about fourth level, generative listening. So Yoga Nidra helps. Yeah. So these are 3, 4 things that I've seen works magic for different people. You need to find out what is that you need to do. Another last one is, did you do your Regal at 60? Yes or no?
Yes.
So I would invite you to look at what is your hobby. Make your hobby. If you're okay to share, you can share. What is your hobby?
I actually haven't had a hobby, and in fact, after Regal at 60, I've been looking for one. I've been looking for like either picking up drawing or building something, or but yeah,
Go for it. Yeah. I
yeah.
mean, don't leave it till you, get at least one, however silly it looks. And it's not playing Dream 11, it's not watching IPL, it is not watching, somebody told me, one of my existing client, super client, he says, I just set a 10-minute timer and I do, what do you call it? Scrolling. I said, unfair. No, scrolling is not relaxation. That's not a hobby. Yeah. So find something that will nurture your soul. And you don't need to, yeah, watering plants, super helpful. Gardening, super helpful. Playing with soil, super helpful. Yeah. Sundar, anything? Good to see you. The
Good to
last
see you,
one.
Suresh. Yeah. I do little bit of painting, and I'm on my mridangam, so that's my this thing,
Absolutely.
right? And in fact, a couple of times I tried, you know, practicing some tala. We call it as
Yeah.
konnakol, right? When you do that. So tala, before I got into this session, that sort of helped me a little bit.
Yeah. It's like a toy in the hands of a child. So that is another thing that will help you to transcend, to wrap up. Don't be constrained by the framework. ICF doesn't want you to do. It's not like those blind people trying to define an elephant. The framework is much bigger than our mind restricts ourselves to. So, we are much bigger than, as a coach. The framework is much bigger than that. Be curious from a space of humility, keep pushing the envelope. You will see from the next session, you'll see magic manifest, nothing less. Yeah. Big thanks for joining and kicking off this ICW 2025. Truly grateful to everyone who stayed on till the end. Thank you. Bye for today. Yeah, bye bye.